It's Dr. Drew, Midday Live with Leanne Tweeden, and you can get it right now.
It is Midday Live. Leanne Tweeden, Dr. Drew. Our number is 800-222-5222. Our next guest is founder and president of the Carrington Group, Tyler Talman. He advises clients with the help of charitable tax specialist. Carrington FO, is that right, Tyler? CarringtonFO.com is the website?
Yes, thanks for having me on the show. CarringtonFO.com.
All right.
Excellent.
So charitable donations are down. My first question would be, why do you think that is?
It's really interesting, guys. I've been on a couple of shows this week, and most people, or at least what spurred this topic, was in regards to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2018 that was implemented by Trump. But I got to tell you, there's a lot of inconsistent reporting on charitable giving numbers. So while we're hearing that there was this huge sharp decline in giving in the charitable space in 2018 and, of course, in the current year in 2019, I got to tell you that the overall numbers are just not supporting that data. As a matter of fact, current change in 2019 is showing an increase in charitable giving from $410 billion to $427 billion, and corporate giving is actually up. So, in my opinion, I think what this really comes down to, and what we're hearing about this sharp decline, is really more focused on individual giving. But when you see the increase in overall corporate giving and foundation-to-foundation giving, that's kind of washing this out and maybe skewing the numbers a little bit.
So just to summarize, charitable giving is not down overall.
Right. Corporations or companies are still giving, right? But just individuals is probably down.
Exactly. I mean, you can look at various sources, and a lot of the larger multinational charities are making this story relevant. But what it really comes down to is when we're looking at total charity giving, it's not really down. And that, with all that said, I would say that I don't think that nonprofits are not facing headwinds and challenges, but I would say that the numbers maybe are skewed a little bit.
Now, when people say, and I don't know the answer to this, so hopefully it's not a stupid question. When people say charitable giving, like I know a lot of times with organizations, right, you can give product or food or things that you make and create, or do they just count cold hard cash? Is it just dollars that they count when it comes to charitable giving? Or can people say, like Kraft can be like, I donated, $10 billion worth of macaroni and cheese to a charity or whatever. Do they count that as well? Or is it just money?
So that's a great question. And I think when you look at the core numbers that's creating this data, it's hard dollars that are coming in both from the individual and corporate level. And that spurs a whole other conversation that we can get into about the whole crowdfunding piece of things like GoFundMe. Yeah. All of those funds are not getting included in these charitable numbers, which I think creates issues.
And do people get taxed on that, by the way? Do people get taxed on that? Like you always see people go, oh, my friend's cousin died. They didn't have any insurance and they need help, to bury them or for what funeral costs or whatever. Do people, they raised $29,000.
If they received a charitable gift, say for medical expense or something, can they be taxed on that?
Yeah,
exchange?
like a GoFundMe. Like, I don't know. Do you get taxed on that money?
Yeah, so the way that the language is written for those organizations, the answer to that is no, as long as they're using those dollars to directly benefit or
how do you know?
Take care of the cost. Well, I mean, that leaves big gaps out there, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, who enforces? I mean, not that I'm saying nobody is not using it for what they say, but, We've seen some GoFundMe scams out there, and they've been caught and put in jail. So, but I'm saying, how do you know that every single penny, and you don't have to report that to Uncle Sam, or GoFundMe doesn't have a mechanism for that they have to, it's like when you cash out in Vegas, if you're over a certain amount of money, they take their money first.
Well, I think where it comes into play there, I mean, if you just look at a general audit for somebody, I mean, if there was this big cash influx that was in their bank account under an audit, the IRS is going to ask questions about that. But to be completely honest, I don't know exactly how GoFundMe and these crowdsourcing companies are, really working the quality control side of this.
Interesting.
I wondered about, in this age of government taking care of everything, if that is having an effect on charitable giving.
Interesting.
Yeah,
the government will do it. The government will do it.
Not just do it, but...
Well, no, but I mean the mindset, it's like that mindset. Well, the government will take care of it. The government will do, even though the government is basically our tax dollars, but
Well, or there's sort of another version of that, which is I've already given it to the government to do what I would have done with this charitable money.
I've already given once. Why do I need to
how
give
much
again?
more do we need? I don't understand what the government's doing with this. Seems like they've got a big operation. How do I know what these charitable organizations are doing? So is there some sort of psychology creeping in here, do you think?
I do. I think one of the places that I focused in when you look at psychology is just the generational difference that's in play right now.
Yep.
I mean, you look at millennials and Gen Xers, and their approach, first of all, to charitable giving is different, but their approach to life is different. And I don't want this to come across like me saying that that the younger generation is not charitable. It just simply means that the way that they look at things is different. But one of the biggest issues that's out there right now, guys, and I don't think it's talked about enough, is the amount of student loan debt that we're dealing with the younger generation. I mean, 44.7 million students are borrowing money in the United States for higher education, which makes up $1.5 trillion of student debt. That means that 70% of all kids that go to school take out some form of student debt to go through college. So
that doesn't leave a lot of money. There's no extra money to be charitable. You're not giving any money when you got debt.
No doubt about it. And think about this. I mean, if you look at $1.5 trillion of student loan debt, that makes up 10% of our national debt.
Oy.
$16 trillion.
Oy.
I mean, that's amazing. And I think there's another component to this too. I mean, the younger generation just gathers and processes all of their information different, and so it's changed the landscape for charity. So they're wake up in bed in their in their pajamas, and they jump on social media and they see somebody that they care about that is in need. They can see exactly where their dollar goes right then and there, versus these big multinational foundations that are taking our money and then they're distributing it out to foundations. The younger generation is going, why would I just not give my money directly to the cause?
Do you have any, I don't know if you know, but do you have any information on maybe the younger generation are more hands-on? Do they give more of their time and do physical, like volunteering, versus like, I don't have a lot of money, but I can give you my body, my time, my sweat?
I think that's a really great question, and I sit on a board in Dallas for a nonprofit organization called the International Student Foundation. When you look at the younger generation, it comes down to the old time, talent, and treasure piece. And I absolutely believe that their approach to corporate America is the same approach that they take to nonprofits, and they like to work inclusively together. They like to be hands-on. They like to give their time and their talents to pieces. I don't have an exact statistical number to that, but I can tell you that in my experience in nonprofit, the younger generation has really stepped up from a volunteering standpoint to help us build our mission.
800-222-5222 is our phone number. We're speaking to founder and president of the Carrington Group, Tyler Talman. And I'm wondering if education is one of the things we need to kind of, let's put it this way. Charitable giving was a practice.
Right.
It was something that...
And you saw your grandparents do it. They always tithed, or they gave part of their, salary. It was just something you did. It wasn't like, oh God, I gotta give up my lattes if I'm going to give to the Red Cross, or I'm serious. It is a mindset, because people are like, no, that's my shoes, or that's my night at the movies, or But
then they'll give in very sort of sporadic and random ways.
Exactly.
That aren't necessarily really having an impact.
Right.
So I guess my question would be, is there a strategy for creating the practice of giving and being effective charitable givers?
Yeah, I think proactivity is absolutely huge. There's a piece of terminology that is used in our business and is used in the planning space. It's just called planned giving. And it's really just about being proactive throughout your life so that you can use legal and tax strategies to maximize your donations and ultimately leave the legacy that you desire. But I got to tell you, statistically, the younger generation, staying on that topic, it's not happening. As a matter of fact, only 7% of those over 30 are actually even familiar with the term planned giving. And I can tell you this, that the research that they've done on this is that tax avoidance is not the powerful motivator for people who are interested in planned giving. So there is no doubt that we've got to do a better job, and foundations have got to do a better job of educating their donors. They've got to get back to grassroots relationship building, and they've got to approach this thing different.
Well, we appreciate you spending a little time with us,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the website is carringtonfo.com, and we will look for you there.
Thank you, Tyler.
Hey, happy holidays. Thank you guys for having
Thank
me.
You too as well.